All right, don't expect any jokes or edits or memes or anything funny in this one just because it is a very serious topic and I want to be as respectful as possible. I heard the surgery went well and he's doing okay, and hopefully he makes a full recovery. That being said, I think there are definitely some takeaways for what we can learn from this horrific accident.
I'm here. You've got you. You've got you. No.
First, he had a pre-existing shoulder injury.
Did you have a shoulder injury, right?
Yeah, seriously, my shoulder's been that bad. My shoulder was in quite a bad way, to be honest.
The greatest predictor of future injury is being injured in the past. So if you've had a shoulder injury, it makes it much more likely that you'll have acute or chronic injuries to that same area in the future. Second would be a lack of mobility. You can see them warming up with just the bar on the incline bench press, and Larry Wheels can go all the way down to his chest, whereas Ryan, he can only go, maybe 70 or 80% of the way down. That last like 6 inches or maybe even a foot of the range of motion, he can't go. And Larry Wheels actually pushes on the bar and he just can't go any deeper. And I think mobility, you can have too much, but you can also have not enough. And this is definitely a contributing factor to the injury. He's stopping at exactly this sticking point, exactly where there is the most tension on that tendon. Third factor, anabolic steroids. If you're a natural lifter, your muscles grow fairly slowly, especially past the first year or two. Therefore, your tendons actually have time to catch up, and they grow at roughly the same rate. But with anabolic steroids, your muscles can grow so much more quickly that your tendons just can't grow at the same rate, and their strength is lagging behind. This puts you at risk for this type of injury. So if you're natural, you don't really have all that much to fear, but if you're enhanced, you should definitely play things a little bit safer.
Well, something's working. That's all you need for a 16-inch chest.
But I really contract hard when I train chest.
I mean, he's 23 years old, about 330 pounds of pretty lean muscle, and clearly he's very, very developed muscularly, but perhaps structurally he hasn't quite caught up. Fourth, it was a 1 rep max. On an 8 rep max, or a 10 rep max, or a 12 rep max, or a 15 rep max, it's a lot less risky than doing these kind of heavy triples or doubles or single rep maxes. Plus, he's a bodybuilder, so he hasn't really trained to do a 1 rep max. Furthermore, he didn't really prepare well for the 1 rep max attempt, going right from 180 kilos, or 4 plates, to 5 plates. That is a massive jump. It's going from roughly perhaps 80% of 1 rep max right to 100% of 1 rep max, a 1 rep max all out attempt. If you look at powerlifters, when they're doing a powerlifting meet, they will warm up very thoroughly. They might do just the bar, then go up in weight, and they might go 60%, 70%, 80%, 85%, 90%, and then they might take their attempts of 92%, 96%, and then go for their third and final attempt. But it is a very gradual process. If he had gone to 4.5 plates, 455, there might be no issue. He might have gotten 1 rep, it would have been a struggle, and then he would say, okay, I can't do any more, and he could rack the weight. But if you're doing an all-out 1 rep max attempt, there's no way to gauge the weight. There's no way to say, okay, I'm doing a set of 5, the 3rd rep was really hard, maybe I won't get 5, and then you rack the weight. With a 1 rep max attempt, it's do or die. Number 5, it was a heavy absolute weight. Once you get stronger, your risk of injury does go up. If you look at almost all incredibly strong people, a lot of them have a pretty lengthy history of injury. So if you came to me and you said, Geoff, what's more likely that someone tears a pec? A 5-plate bench press or a 1-plate bench press? Of course, the 5-plate bench press, just because it's a heavier absolute load, especially if you're not really trained to deal with that weight.
So it's been a while since I do dumbbell press or anything like that.
Number 6 is the environment. So it was very competitive. He's training with Larry Wheels, and to to his credit, Larry Wheels isn't like trying to push other people. I mean, he's being supportive and he's being encouraging, but he's not saying like throw 5 plates on there. Ryan was actually the one who said, Larry, try 5 plates for 8 reps. If you try for 8 reps, I'll try for 1 rep.
Okay, so I'll do 5 for like...
If you do 8 reps, I'll try and do 5 for 1.
Dude.
That's a good bit of negotiation.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And so, this kind of competitive environment can be good for performance, but taken too far can absolutely result in a greater risk of injury. Know yourself, check your ego at the door, and know what you can and can't do. Don't let what other people are lifting come into the equation. If I'm lifting with Larry Wheels, I'm not like, yeah, throw on 120% of my max weight. No, okay? You need to really internalize what you can and can't do. Also, they're filming for YouTube. He knows that hundreds of thousands of people are going to see this, and even if he's maybe not ready to lift this weight, he doesn't want to look like a pussy, basically. And so this can definitely come into the equation. And, filming on YouTube, there's a lot of pressure to be strong, especially at the main lifts, which you might not be quite ready for. Number 7 is technique. Now, technique is not always indicative of injury, but if you're trying out a new technique that you've never used before, you should definitely not max out on this technique. One thing that not a lot of people saw was that when he was warming up, he was using a slightly narrower grip. In fact, Larry Wheels actually said to him, that's almost like a closed grip because your hand is going inside of the elbow. And Larry said to widen your grip. And this isn't bad advice.
I don't even think that's a close grip.
Huh?
Close grip because your hands are inside your elbow. Yeah. I would grip in between the rings if I were you. Because when you're benching, your hands are going inside your elbow rather than outside.
Does that make it harder or easier?
Oh, harder for sure.
Oh, yeah. Maybe we'll get 5 plates then.
Man,
because you can usually lift more with a slightly wider grip. However, this, compared to this puts much more stress on the tendons here. Absolutely, 100%. Also, if you tuck the elbows, it's much safer, but if you keep them flared out, it's really just asking for injury. Number 8 would be gear. Now, not the type of gear that I talked about before, but actual supportive gear. So he's using wrist wraps, he's using elbow wraps as well, and this gets you a little bit of spring out of that bottom position, allowing you to lift more weight. Now, in some ways, this is good. It probably helps with elbow issues. However, if you can lift more weight, it's not actually supporting the chest or the pec at all. In fact, you're using more weight, so it puts more stress on that area, especially as he's never used this gear before.
It's good though, it was good. It definitely helped. But in my head, when I first went down, I was like, wow.
Number 9 would be imbalance, instability, and fatigue. So first, he was fatigued from his AMRAP. If you look at his set of 180 kilos for 7, almost 8 reps, that was a truly maximal effort. That was to true failure, which in itself, given all the other risk factors, was probably a bad idea. However, he got through it. It was okay. But when you go up in weight and you try to max out after fatigued, not a good idea. In fact, Larry himself said, I might try, an AMRAP with 220 kilos, 5 plates, if I was fresh. He said that. He knows himself pretty well by now because he's suffered some injuries. You can see that Ryan has some imbalances. He's actually said he has a shoulder injury in the past. And you can see him as he takes the bar, and this is with a lot of the sets, there's a little bit of shifting on the way down. You can see the weight shift from the left to the right. He's not quite controlling the weight. The eccentric is very, very slow because he's not confident with that weight. He says to Larry, help me, support me, as he unracks the bar. And if you can see yourself shifting from left to right during a set, so if you're doing a squat or a deadlift or bench press or an incline or anything, or an overhead press, if you're shifting from left to right during the set, not a good sign, okay? Especially if you're trying to max out. Finally, number 10 is that it's a new exercise for him. He said that he hasn't incline pressed for a year due to the shoulder injury. He said that he hasn't even done stuff like dumbbells. He's just been doing pec deck, maybe cable stuff, like that sort of hard contraction, kind of training, that bodybuilder type of stuff, and clearly it's been very, very effective for chest development, but it doesn't really prepare the body for dumbbell and barbell lifts because the dynamics are completely different. And you can see that he's not 100% comfortable as he's warming up. He's sort of like grabbing his chest and massaging it a little bit, maybe trying to get some blood into the area. And if you feel terrible when you're warming up, keep warming up more. If someone's like, want to go up to 3 plates, then 4 plates, and you don't feel ready, don't, okay? Especially if it's a new exercise or if you have a lot of other risk factors. So honestly, it was sort of a perfect storm of factors that caused this issue. So if you're just a normal person in the gym, definitely don't use this as an excuse not to train hard or not to do incline press or not to just lift weights in general because, my pec could tear. No, okay, this was a very unusual and extreme circumstance. In hindsight, it kind of seems obvious that it would happen given how many risk factors and how many boxes he was ticking and how many red flags there were. So if you're just a normal person and you're lifting normal weights in a normal way and you don't have a lot of these risk factors, you really do have almost nothing to worry about. Basically nothing. This kind of extreme injury really doesn't happen to most normal gym goers. So I wish him a speedy and full recovery. Hopefully there's a lesson here, not just for him, but for other people as well. All right, that's all for now. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Drop a like, turn on notifications, all that stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.